I'm here with Justin Haglund, our fishing biologist here in our little corner of heaven in Richland County and Iowa County. So we're going to talk a little bit about spawning. So since we are on the spawning topic, it has been highly debated on if walleye, musky, and northern pike naturally reproduce within our lakes in this state, or for that matter, any state. Can you touch on your findings within our area, if it's natural reproduction going to happen in lakes, and the reasons why it does or does not?
Yeah, so that's kind of a controversial subject, not only in the South, but in the North as well, in the state of Wisconsin. And for the South, we really don't have a lot of lakes, at least in my area, that have good natural reproduction of walleye or musky. There might be some natural reproduction. And this is actually something that we're going to be looking at in 2021 with the northern pike populations. Mm-hmm. So in Black Hawk Lake, where we stock northern pike, we really don't have a good handle on how much natural reproduction is occurring. You know, we think there's some, but with stocking, we don't really know. So we've actually got a study in a couple of years coming up that we're going to be doing some genetic analyses. So we're going to be taking some fin clips from those pike that we capture during our spring surveys, and then we're going to go do the analysis and then compare those to our known stock strain, so we can see really what contribution we're getting from stocking versus those natural sources.
I guess I'm going to jump in and ask you this question. Black Hawk Lake in specific has been stocked for several years now with northern pike, and a lot of anglers like to target northern pike. Has our stocking efforts, have they clipped a fin so we know the difference, or are we just starting that process now?
Well, we typically do that in the spring. So when we're looking at getting our population estimates, we'll clip fish for our own verification when we're getting recaptures. So we know if we've gotten that fish before, and we use that in our estimates to figure out how many fish are in that system. But when they stock them, they don't clip them right off the bat. Okay. So you won't know right away if yes, this is a stocked fish, or no, this isn't a stocked fish.
So I can see that'd be a very difficult thing to figure out without doing the additional testing.
And there is fin regeneration too. So over time, those fins do regenerate to the point where sometimes you can tell if they've been clipped or not. But a couple of years down the road, you might not even be able to tell if that fish was clipped originally or not. So yeah, you might not see that. But other than northern pike, walleyes, we don't really see much natural reproduction down in the south. There might be a little bit. I mean, there might be some limited natural reproduction in our lakes. I mean, the fish are going through the motions, they're doing their thing. Yeah. It's just not successful. I don't know if we just don't have enough of that large cobble, or those windswept shorelines, or if the hatchery fish just aren't able to go through the motions, successfully. I'm not really sure exactly as to why that is, but there might be limited natural reproduction throughout. So we covered pike, walleyes, and then muskies. So muskies in the south, in my area, so we stock muskies in Twin Valley Lake. We don't have any natural reproduction of muskies in Twin Valley. We haven't seen any, I should say, but we do stock Twin Valley with muskies. And each muskie that we stock, we put a pit tag in it. Okay. So we've got a 15-digit code that when we scan that fish, we can tell exactly what fish that is, when we stocked it, who stocked it, and then we can track that fish throughout its life to look at its growth patterns, how old it is, and get some really good population data from those fish. So that's just talking in lakes. Now, if we move over to the river systems, some more riverine systems, Lower Wisconsin River, Mississippi River, where those fish, where that's more of a natural environment for those fish, I mean, you should see better natural recruitment and reproduction from especially pike and walleye, because those are the systems where they really thrive, and they should be doing really well. So not only within those, but any tributaries leading to those, you might see better recruitment.
So I guess touching on the recruitment, since we're talking about obviously a river system being better and more natural for that, what things are needed, say let's start with walleye, for example. What different elements are needed for reproduction or helping with the reproduction? Obviously, we've talked a little bit about current, because you're talking windswept. We're looking for water moving, and maybe rock, rubble, maybe not so much sand, but rock and rubble.
Yeah. Yes, you want some of that. You want that larger coarse substrate, right? Because walleye are broadcast spawners, so those females will go out and they will lay their eggs throughout an entire area over the rocks, and then the males will come over, and so you really kind of need that really good cobble, and you really don't want a lot of silt too, because if those eggs get covered in silt, you can pretty much call it a loss there for the recruitment there, because you don't want those eggs getting covered up. I mean, they need to be oxygenated. You need that.
Maybe that's why the
movement of the water.
The current helps keep that silt blowing down, and
Yep.
the eggs obviously are they sticky? Is that why they help stay to the ground, or are they just heavier than the silt?
Those rocks they provide those nooks and those crannies for those eggs to kind of hang out in, and that water to move through.
That's why sand and silt is usually not best for the reproduction.
Yeah, and if that comes and covers them up before the males get there, you're probably going to have a poor recruitment year.
Okay, so now let's touch on northern pike. What things are helping with the growth or the spawning of northern pike? Because I like to fish up in northern Wisconsin, and there's a lot of bodies of water in northern Wisconsin. Like, they've literally said there's no length limit on northern pike because they have really kind of boosted so much.
Yep.
Or we don't have that quite so much. So I guess what factors play into natural reproduction of northern pike?
Yeah, so northern pike, they really need those shallow areas that have a lot of vegetation or grasses, kind of those marshy areas. So so any area that you've got an inlet coming into a lake or whatever it might be, or it's got kind of that shallow area, you might see a lot of horsetail there or other aquatic species. They really like to spawn in those shallows. So as you can imagine, water level fluctuations could have a big impact on the spawning pike populations. And then in the Northwoods too, I mean, a lot of those no size limit regulations, I think that also has to do with muskies.
Yeah,
because in the Northwood, I mean, if you want to have a good muskie population, you probably don't want to have them competing with northern pike, especially because northern pike tend to get in. They tend to get in there earlier. They get into those spawning areas earlier in the year before muskie do, and they can kind of outcompete those muskies from reproducing.
I see that.
So
that makes a lot of sense, because in northern Wisconsin is very tourism driven, and the muskie industry and the walleye industry is very pronounced up in that area.
Yeah.
So that makes a lot of sense. And then since we talked about muskie a little bit, there's probably not a lot of bodies of water, from what I've heard, that actually let muskies reproduce, or it's just not containable for muskies to reproduce. So how do muskies reproduce, and what things would help with that?
Yeah, I mean, I think they're pretty similar to the pike reproduction, recruitment. Good habitat can go a long ways, and if you have competition from other species like pike, you're probably going to have poor recruitment and reproduction from muskies. And so that's why we don't have a lot down in the south. I mean, a lot of our populations are stocked.
Yep.
Twin Valley Lake gets stocked, the Madison chain as well, which is a huge muskie fishery down in this area. I mean, if you're looking to catch nice fish and do some fishing, the Madison chain's kind of where it's at if you want to catch some quality.
There's a lot of lakes connected with that chain, and on top of that, there's a few lakes that are really known for numbers lakes too.
Yeah.
So if you're not necessarily after a big fish, because we all know how much money we can spend on tackle and not catching a fish, I myself included, being able to go into one of those numbers lakes and be able to catch a fish will help boost your confidence, and then you'll be ready to maybe target some of those.
Yeah, hone in your techniques and get some on the line and
get your heart pumping.
There you go. Yeah.
So I guess that concludes a little bit of our spawning talk that we've had this morning. I'm looking forward to doing a lot more. Hopefully I get a chance to come out with you and do some of the muskie studies with the Pike nets, because you guys already did last year. Went out and did some checking. So you're checking for your growth rates. your age structures and you're able to somehow tell your population or give a good estimate on your population based on that. So I'm looking forward to it, especially being able to see muskies.
Oh yeah.
When they're probably not in season, but
right.
I'm looking forward to it, and I do appreciate your guys'
Yeah, you
work.
bet.
Thank you a lot, and hopefully we can have him on board again and talk about more fishing related questions.
All right. Thanks, Trevor.
Yep.